Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. This is sublbc here, doing another video slash audio episode of a sort. Not exactly growing for freedom, maybe something else. Basically, kind of going back to an old school format of videos that I did back in the day. I know you guys are probably big fans of the "What It Takes to Be a Grower" series, as well as the sublbc Q&A, and we're going to be kind of going back to that here for a little bit while we work on doing other videos kind of in the background. Actually, I've been diverting a lot of my attention to doing more audio related things, not just doing like voice stuff like this, but music production as well. And just upgraded to a new interface that I'm finally getting to test for something other than doing music. So basically putting my mics to the test here. And I do apologize for just a little bit of background noise that is seeping in. I'm actually trying to use a noise gate to get rid of that as much as possible, but my computer unfortunately is quite loud, and this is something I didn't really anticipate would be such a problem right off the bat. But as it turns out, I probably at some point should upgrade to a case that's a little bit better designed for work in an audio environment. In fact, this whole house probably should be a little bit better designed for doing this kind of stuff. But yeah, guys, it's been a really exciting time here in the Mitten. Obviously, a lot of things have been going down in the political landscape, not just in regards to cannabis, but obviously at a federal level. Man, it's just been insane out there, and the controversy just goes on and on and on. And I just laugh my ass off, guys, at this fake news shit. I mean, fake news is like overwhelming, guy. It is absolutely crazy. And I don't want to turn this into like a political channel, really. There's already so many of those. But I just laugh my ass off today, guys, because I like to go to the Huffington Post sometimes and just laugh. It's like, it's kind of like a guilty pleasure just to completely like just gawk at the fucking idiocy on display there publicly. Like, I can't believe a lot of people like go there and use their public Facebook profiles to say some of the things that they do. But they actually had an article where they're just kind of talking about how, Trump is a liar and his press secretary is a liar. And on the very first day, they told lies. And one of those lies, being that they were completely lying about the crowd size at the inauguration, right? And I kind of suspected there might be problems with this. I don't know, I mean, DC, I don't think was really all that pro-Trump. But they went ahead and at the New York Times graphics posted a side-by-side photograph showing, Obama's inauguration as well as, Trump's 2017 inauguration. So 2009 versus 2017. And obviously, the New York Times is going to show the massive crowds, all the way from the podium all the way back to the Washington Monument. And then they show the picture at Trump's inauguration. And it's like, it's pretty packed up front, but it just kind of gets empty and there's like literally no people. But there are clearly frames of reference, where you can see like the three buildings in the back and, there's not that many people there. But the Huffington Post, goes on to write about this, about how they're liars. And here's the picture evidence, right? And then you click on the link literally right off the Huffington Post website, and it takes you to the New York Times graphics Twitter account that posted the picture. And then right below it is a fucking debunking picture, like clearly showing that it's absolute fucking bullshit. And I thought this was funny because just a little bit ago, I was actually on CNN's website where they had published a gigapixel picture of the inauguration, right? So, I mean, you can't doctor this, I mean, you can literally zoom into like every fucking person's face almost all the way to the back row. And it clearly shows, there's Trump up front, there's Obama, there's, Michelle Obama, Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, Bush and his wife. It's just like clear picture evidence that the fucking shit was packed all the way to the rear. And Huffington Post is so stupid that the very link that they share on their site actually has the debunking photos. And I mean, guys, it's just fake news everywhere. Like nothing is real anywhere, especially coming from the so-called, left wing or whatever, the liberal side of politics. If you can even like, use that word while keeping a straight face, it's just absolutely hilarious that they will lie and do anything to completely distort reality to fit whatever narrative they're trying to spin at this point, which, to be honest, I don't even know what the fuck it is, man. They're just literally going insane. I really do feel a great deal of sympathy for leftists, people that find themselves, pro-Democrat or whatever, people that take it somewhat seriously, or even ones that don't. I feel sympathy for them just because of their ignorance. But, for those who have really, been drinking the Kool-Aid, the whole social justice warrior activism and all of this shit, man. God, what a sad bunch of individuals you are, and what a disgusting picture you paint. I mean, wow. I'm not gonna lie, guys. I was really excited with the coming of the Trump presidency. The Trump victory. I consider it to be the greatest upset in history. Um, I think there was somebody on ESPN. Maybe it was like Max Kellerman or something. He basically made a reference to I don't know if it was him. It was someone. I don't think it was Stephen A. Smith, but whatever. That if you look at all the greatest games, single contests ever played throughout all of time, like nothing compares to what happened here with this election. I mean, even if you look at like, what is it? The Miracle on Ice, which, God, in sporting terms, I don't think there's anything greater upset wise. A bunch of college kids taking on the greatest fucking team in history and winning in the Olympics. That's nothing compared to what Trump has pulled off. Just the ability to read the situation. He knew what the facts on the ground were. And, it's kind of funny, man. He saw a lot of the same things that I saw when I made my trip from LA to Michigan. It's like you're almost in a sense coming to another world. I mean, obviously it's still very much the same. A lot of things are similar, but there's a lot of things that are just completely different. And Trump really tapped into that. This whole just economic abandonment of this whole section of the country. It's just absolutely crazy. The types of things that I've seen. Not only in just the obvious things with the eroding of the infrastructure, but the effect that it has on the population at large. And, coming where I came from, obviously there's a lot of problems. That's why I left. There's a lot of problems, and Trump has talked about those problems. But now you come over here and it's a whole new slew of shit, right? And it's a lot. I look at it as such a wasted opportunity, completely destroyed by basically people that just did not give a shit about anything, outsourced everything, chasing the bottom line always, completely ignoring I guess just a complete separation between consumer and worker, and whether or not Trump is going to be able to fix any of this shit, I don't know. In fact, I really don't think so. I don't think any of this can be fixed, even within an 8-year span. This will take decades of recovery, if we can keep going in a direction that will get us there. But the damage has just been done, and 8 years of Obama just did not help. At the very best, it more or less just kept us where we are. Incredibly swamped in debt. Basically funny money being printed endlessly from the Fed, same old crap, unfavorable trade deficits, and just a lot of economic uncertainty. At this point, I think the only thing that keeps any legitimacy with this country is the fact that we'll just blow the shit out of anyone who fucks with us. I mean, we're basically a militarized backed economy at this point. And I don't know how long that's going to be sustainable. And, I think that the only ray of hope that we have right now is the fact that, we do have a reality TV star as our president, and it sets a great precedent, and even if things go really bad, maybe, we can get somebody else from a different sector to come in and attempt a leadership role who is not a completely corrupt and, pure evil politician like Hillary Clinton was. Because let's face it, she was the absolute worst fucking candidate I think the Democrats have ever put up in like a long time. I mean, gosh, just an absolute shameful handling of the party and the will of the people that support the party. It's just disgusting. And I'm absolutely shocked that it really hasn't opened up more eyes. You would think that the corruption is just so complete that, a new party would just have to be born out of it, and we have seen things like this happen in America's history, but I don't know. You know what I'm saying? These are things that are going to have to unfold as time goes on. And, we're going to see again, with more Senate elections, representative elections, Congress, whatever, depending on how the power ebbs and flows, if the Democrats start to look like they simply cannot win, somebody's going to have to step up. Something is going to have to happen. So, yeah, it's very, very interesting. Politics has not been this interesting since Kennedy died. I mean, seriously, guys, it's fucking, or I'd say probably hasn't been this interesting since Watergate. Although that kind of left a real bad taste in our mouth too. Maybe there's a lot of similarities between those two. I don't know. Anyways, there are some things actually that are cannabis related here in this video. So I do apologize for this, 10-minute and 30-second segue of bullshit. Just some things that are kind of on my mind right now at the moment. But one thing that I did want to talk about though is kind of like a service announcement, things that I've seen in gardens, and I actually do have some video that I'm going to bring in here so you guys can kind of check this out. And I am narrating the video without even seeing it, so I do want to apologize if what I'm describing is not exactly what you're seeing. I'm just going to run this video probably here on endless repeat. But this here is actually a short video I made of a garden that I had went on tour. And actually, a friend of mine who I've been in contact for a long time wanted me to come out and inspect this garden because it had a lot of problems. And they were, really not happy with some things. And I don't want to get into the gist of it. But the reason why I want to present this is, is really just to give you guys an idea of what can happen if you try to run CO2 burner-based systems in your gardens. And this is something that I've been seeing over and over and over again. And I know that this might come as a shock to a lot of you guys because I haven't really talked about this much in my YouTube videos. There are other pieces of content where I have mentioned this, but I feel it's really important to share it on my largest platform, which is YouTube. And that is, if you are running 100% sealed room environment, regardless of the size, it is highly recommended that you do not run any kind of burner-based CO2 system, whether it be propane or natural gas. Although I do believe that depending on the kind of propane that you run, you might have actually a lot more success. But if you are running natural gas as a CO2 supplement in your room, wow, you're going to be causing a lot of problems in your garden. And, it took me a while to figure this out because, you don't have the ability to run tests and controls with multiple gardens. You know what I'm saying? Like, you kind of have to be intuitive at some point along the way. But I did reach the conclusion on my own and did have the information confirmed by some growers that are much further ahead in the game than I am at this point. I am still working my way up. We want to get to the warehouse grows. But like I've told everyone involved in our immediate group, I do not have any interest at all whatsoever in following in the footsteps of failure that I've seen with a lot of their implementations. And I've been all around and I've seen a lot, and I'm really not been terribly happy or impressed with any of it. But along the way, I've also been solving a lot of pieces of the puzzle and finally getting put into contact with guys that are further along in the game and have seen a huge amount of success. And at this point, I'm only interested in mimicking those who are showing huge amounts of success. I don't even really generally even care about, the ideological differences as far as strategy is concerned about how they get there. I can work out those numbers and whatnot on my own, but I'm really just, focusing on how these gardens are built, the absolute specifics, as it includes environment specifically. That's really what I want to know more than anything is what are the absolute, hairline details about how they manage AC systems, the kinds of AC systems that they use, how they're managed, how they're supervised, dehumidification, how is this accomplished specifically? And I've been somewhat, shocked to see some things, that I wouldn't expect, with a lot of residential type hardware, filling in for commercial type application. But, burners will kill your plants. And this video here may have been going on repeat here for a while. But as you can see here in this garden, this is a really unhappy garden. And the growers that have been working on these things have been attempting to, correct the issues. And I'll tell you right off the bat, these guys are not vegetative specialists, you know what I'm saying? Which I think is a resource that is sorely lacking or I should say sorely is it sorely? Well, it's lacking here in Michigan. And, because of it, it really does make these one plant per light grows very difficult to achieve because, man, if you only have one plant per light, that has to be like the best plant possible. It can't just be like a piece of shit because you're investing so much time. I mean, we're talking like 8 to 12 weeks of veg. And then, of course, the actual flowering cycle itself, 8 to 9 weeks. I don't even know what the dollar amount in kilowatt hours plus nutrients and rental space that it takes, for its little 4x4 or whatever area. So, you have to have one hell of a stellar vegetative program on the back end to fuel gardens of this size using this type of technique. But, this is time and time again lost on growers that are trying to break into this industry. It's like there's almost like this strange mentality where it's like, if I just spend like $200,000 on this immaculate setup, then results are guaranteed, and nothing could be further from the truth. It's just, there's a complete disconnect and a failure to understand the fundamentals behind how to build a proper large scale room. And I have had a chance to see different style implementations and, understanding what's good and what isn't and why. And so I'm going to try to share some of that with you right now. So, obviously, with these videos here, these guys have just been trying to do everything to the point to where they're actually introducing commercial grade hypersonic foggers into their gardens, thinking that maybe the humidity is too low for the early stage in bloom, which is, it's an interesting hypothesis. I've also gone down the same road, but it is simply not the case. What I've found and what it was confirmed, again, with other growers on what the fuck is going on, is that the first order of business is to eliminate any kind of burner-based CO2 supplementation from your system completely. And it should never be used ever under any circumstances, no matter what. You should always be introducing CO2 through natural means, whether it be fucking gerbil power, whether you're running CO2 tanks, pure CO2 gas, or if you're, doing yeast or some kind of shit like that, maybe that's okay. Although I've never done it, but nothing that requires a burn off that will put heat and humidity into your garden. There's a lot of things that burners do bad. A lot of byproducts of the positivity, of the CO2 they give off. Those things are heat. Those things are humidity, which makes things a lot tougher on your cooling system and whatnot, especially when you're running open, non-air cooled reflectors or non-enclosed lighting systems. And then the worst thing about it is they burn off all the oxygen in the room, potentially. They can have a much more toxic effect on your plants the lower the cubic footages of the room. Tend to be the smaller rooms will just get wiped out, if you run like an 8 burner or something crazy like that. And from what I understand, and I cannot confirm this because I don't know enough about it and don't have the equipment to find out anyways, that there's butane mixed in with natural gas, and there might be other additives put into the gas that the burn off is toxic to the plants. Now, I have no way of confirming this other than the fact that I've seen it waste marijuana plants. But, in my experience, most things that are toxic to plants tend to be toxic to humans, but not always. And I just find it strange. But, even in my own experiences, I have to go to where the evidence points, and it just keeps pointing to this. It just makes it kind of scary, considering that you're running burners on your kitchen top stove. And, you're cooking stuff up, running those things for hours, peaking out CO2 levels in your room, where you live. But I suppose, you turn it off eventually and, you're not using it every day, I guess, for hours and hours on end, maybe. I don't know. It just seems shocking to me that, this is the case, but it definitely is indeed the case. So for all you guys that are out there, I mean, think of it this way. It's cheaper to run tank-based CO2 anyways, right? You're going to be saving on electricity. You're going to be saving on, extra work your dehumidifiers have to do to pull that extra heat and humidity out of the rooms. You also don't have to pay for gas anymore, which is nice because they do consume some that you do have to pay for. You get better results with the tank. The only thing you have to deal with is the fucking inconvenience of having to replace the tanks, which I admit is a fucking pain in the ass. You know what I'm saying? I don't like it. But you'd be shocked how long 20-pound tanks can go. Right now in the rooms that I've seen, like my 20-pound tanks can last almost 2 weeks maintaining saturation levels between 800 and 900 ppm. And even in the 36,000 watt rooms that I've seen, they're using tank base and it works just fine. 20 pounders, they're not even going for the 50 pounders, which I was actually, pretty surprised by. But, I will tell you this, if you guys are going to be going big warehouse, do not try to attempt the large scale 72,000 watt room. It's going to run into too many problems. Much better separating them into two 36,000 watt rooms. And that way you can get more harvests. You're cycling out half the size, but twice as much. But it just seems that everything is, just easier to contain kind of at that size. If you're running the, the Gavitas, the open reflectors and stuff like that. Now, I've seen all kinds of different AC implementations from multiple 5-ton to like 14-ton units or some crazy shit. I think there was like one, the 72,000 watt room, the one here with the video that I've been showing, that has like 14 tons or some ridiculous shit. But, it doesn't matter. All that extra money doesn't mean shit when you've got tons of cubic footage, way more, than you need, and making it difficult to move the air around. And then you're running tons and tons of CO2 burners that are just, introducing toxic, gases that are killing the plants. And, when you keep trying to troubleshoot by, over adding CalMag and then bringing in hypersonic foggers and then trying to attempt to do shading to stop the plants, it slows down water consumption. And now you're starting to affect the root mass, and it just becomes like a domino effect, essentially, where things are just kind of spiraling towards failure. And, unfortunately with this specific garden, it's almost like I have to stand back and let them fail. And I've already had conversations with those kind of, who control this whole thing and say, look, this is kind of the situation you're in. This is why you've gotten where you are. And I know it doesn't sound nice just to come in as an outsider and give you hindsight 2020 bullshit, but it is important to be brought up to speed with where the fuck you are and to understand what the difference is between something that's really successful and what it's supposed to look like and something that isn't, because some of these people just don't know. They don't know what a really great garden looks like. So, they see a shitty one and think it's okay, and it's not. And they don't listen to certain people for whatever reasons. But being who I am, carries a lot of weight because I've got no dog in the fight. I really don't give a shit. I'm not dying to take over the garden. I can take over a lot of different gardens. I don't pick where I work based on how massive and how much money it can make. I don't care about that at all. What I care about is how much autonomy I have over what I do. I want basically full control over everything. And I like to work where I feel comfortable, really. That's what it comes down to. I got to like the place. I got to like the people. I got to like the situation. And it's got to come, with a preformed trust that kind of already exists, a common understanding. You know what I'm all about, and I know what you're all about, right? And luckily, being who I am, it's kind of like obvious what I'm all about. I've given up everything for this shit. I'm like a fucking goddamn weed warrior, giving up family, giving up everything, giving up all meaningful relationships, self-imposed isolation, just to make sure that I can do exactly what I want to do when I want to do it all the time. That's basically what it comes down to. That's the amount of free time you need to have the dedication to do this, as well as, aspire to do other things with my time, which I am very, very, very protective of, especially now at this point. And, I don't let anyone get in the way between me and the things that I want to do, no more. And for all of you guys that are letting people get in your way, man, cut them loose. This is things that I've talked about many times before in the past on, many previous videos. Right. So anyways, guys, I wanted to get that out of the way. If you guys have any questions or comments about, your feelings about, burners and kind of success stories or not, let me know, because I don't know if this might just be like a regional thing. I've never used a gas-based system for CO2 really. Even when I was doing Stilled Room, we had a tank-based system. I think that there was some, thinking about maybe bringing it in, but the particular warehouse that we had did not have, natural gas running to it. So, yeah. But anyways, guys, I did want to kind of cut this video short here, keep it under 30 minutes. The next video we're going to be doing is going to be a Q&A session. So if you guys do have questions and comments about whatever you've heard in this video or other things, go ahead and leave them here in the video. But if it's really important, something that you want to have addressed, you want to go ahead and email that directly to me at sublbcqanda sublbcqanda@gmail.com. And then from there, we'll go ahead and address it and cover it in the next video. But I did want to, set aside some time to talk specifically about VPD in that next video, which is the whole vapor pressure deficit, or, vapor pressure dynamics. And some of my, conclusions based on running through these systems and whatnot. And hopefully we'll have some other video and stuff like that. And if you guys have videos that you want to share, also, include links or the uploads, as attachment if you can. I don't know, it might be a little bit too big for that, I would suppose. But yeah, that is pretty much it, guys. Thanks a lot for listening, and I will see you all very soon.